The U.S. Secret Service is one of the departments, one of the areas that had been experiencing some negative morale, bad morale, maybe the best way to say it is a decrease in morale. And for the last several years, there's been a turnaround there. The U.S. Secret Service director, Mr. Randolph Allis, was part of the turnaround and was there when that was occurring. I want to talk a little bit about when you denigrate employees. The President of the United States was doing that with the director of the U.S. Secret Service. While he was turning it around, he ridiculed him, calling him names before he fired him. What do you think that does to employee morale?
Well, as I said when I answered Mr. Higgins, I don't think it can help, but I think employer morale, frankly, is a lot more complicated when you're looking at an agency across 15 to 20,000 people. There are just a number of factors that go into how people answer that survey.
I understand. I'm trying to ask, do you think there's a negative impact when the President of the United States is basically calling names of the director of the U.S. Secret Service, who has been turning around the Secret Service to increase morale?
Well, ma'am, I don't have any data showing what sort of impact that has on morale across such a large organization. It certainly doesn't help morale, but I think there are so many factors that go into individuals' morale at a component morale that I think it's just a difficult question to answer.
Mr. Steyer, do you have an opinion?
So, Congresswoman, I think there's no question that when senior leaders in any aspect of our society, but certainly ones that are actually running the government, have negative things to say about their employees or the civil servants that are there as career merit-based employees, it's a bad thing. We ought to have political leaders across the board, and just understand that this is a problem that we've seen not just now, but it's one that we've seen for decades. And I think it's a mistake because fundamentally these are folks that are working for the American people. They're working not for any particular policy that the political leadership decides. They're working on the basis of supporting the Constitution of the United States. So fundamentally, one of the things that we do as an organization is a Service to America Medals, where we try to highlight great stories of federal employees. We're actually getting nominations right now. We'd welcome nominations from any of you on the panel. We need to create a culture of recognition. In my view, again, focus on the good. You're going to create more uplift than anything else that is possible to get done.
Right. Mr. Steyer, there are currently 13 senior positions vacant throughout the department, from the secretary to the and deputy secretary to the heads of CBP and ICE. Most of these roles are filled by acting officials. What effect does a lack of permanent leadership have in an organization's ability to promote that positive change you're talking about?
And the metaphor for me, it's like the substitute teacher. We've all experienced before. You can be an amazing educator, but if you're the substitute teacher, you don't yourself perceive your job as the long-term difficult problems, and those on the outside, the class, the children, other teachers don't see you as that long-term partner either. So it diminishes the ability of leadership to do their job well, and it's a mistake. So I would say that part of the problem here is a systemic one. We have 1,200 Senate-confirmed positions. That's too many to actually get through the Senate. So one of the things we would advocate for is fewer Senate-confirmed positions, and then disaggregating them, taking the operating ones like the Undersecretary for Management away from the policy ones and trying to create long-term continuity among them. One of the best things this committee could ever do for the Department of Homeland Security is to keep Tex Allis in the job of Undersecretary for Management as the confirmed individual in there for a lengthy period of time. You would see huge improvement. So creating that as a structural option would be fantastic.
Great, thank you. I yield back.